Hello. 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 Hey, Samad. Can you hear me? Hello. Can you hear me? Hello. Can you hear me? Samad? Hey Manju. Hey Manju. Where is Bhavan? Anyone don't have a GitHub account? Hello. Okay, let me show you the process of signing up to the GitHub. I'll be using my Google account, so I'll be using Cloud Corner account. Okay, I'm creating a GitHub account. Cloud Corner. Right. Screen share. Okay, sorry. నేను ఇక్కడ చూస్తున్నా లైవ్లోకి వచ్చే స్క్రీన్ చూస్తున్నా మీకు వచ్చే స్క్రీన్ మర్చిపోయా నౌ okay. So let me go back. So if you don't have an account, so you can create one. Just log in with go to sign up, go to github.com, go to sign up. Okay, cancel, sign up. Just use your Google account. So I am using this cloudcorner@gmail.com. I already signed up, so I am able to see it. So you need to create a repository. So you can name it whatever you want, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so name this as a public repository. You have to choose the visibility as public. Okay, if you keep it as a private, you can only see it, no one else can see it. Okay, that is one thing. So I am creating this as a Terraform. Okay, Terraform code. Okay, so whatever the code that I'll be using, I'll be pushing to this repository. If you want to try it in your labs, you can go here and you can actually see from here. Okay, so let me get started. For you to write any Terraform code in your machine, you have to use Terraform. Use the command Terraform. Okay, you have to install it. In my machine I have it, Terraform. It's not, there's a typo. See, this is actually visible for me. Okay, so for you to install it, I'll share the link. You can install it right now in the call itself. I'll share it, or you can just go to Google and search for Terraform Windows download. So just install Terraform. So I'm pinging this link in the WhatsApp group, so you can just follow. So you are seeing my code screen with VS Code, right? Okay, good. So you can just go to this location and you can install it. I am pasting this in the WhatsApp group. So once you install it, you can just come here and you may need to set up a path. Okay, I'll give you the command to set up the path also. I'm sharing you one link, just follow this. If you are facing any issues, you can just look at from here. Okay, so this is about the Terraform code installation, and now Terraform path setup. Okay, if you want me to show you, I'll show it here. So go to this PC properties. Under the properties there is something called as advanced. Okay, this is my machine, right? Not system components, it's called search for here path. See, environment variable, system environment variable path. So this will open the pop-up like this, environment variables, and go to path. So if you click on edit path, you will actually see the path here. Okay, so you see I have set up the path as c:\terraform.terraform.exe. That's why it is actually visible. Okay, so now the Terraform path is being set up. Now you are able to Terraform. So now let's talk about the basics. What is Terraform? Basically, why we will use a Terraform. So basically, if you're trying to create any infrastructure, yesterday I showed you, right? So how you set up IAM permissions, or like you want to enable some APIs or anything, you have to you have to go to console.cloud.google.com. Okay, which is this. You can just go to console.cloud.google.com. Once you go to console.cloud.google.com, okay, you can just by using a mouse clicks, you can actually do whatever you want. This is called as click ops. So you are using a you clicking to do operations, so that's called as a click ops. That's how they call it. Okay, so instead of using click ops, you can use a IAC, which is infrastructure as a code. So Terraform is one of the IAC. Okay, so using the Terraform, you can write a code, you can commit the code to the GitHub, and then you can run the code so that infrastructure can be gets created. Okay, any question? Okay, so basic idea of Terraform is like you create all the code that you want at once, and then you can reuse the code for multiple times, so that you can, let's say you have to build 100 resources today. Okay, so let me just open the Terraform whiteboard. So this is yesterday's one, right? So let's create another one. Where is the new option here? Let's erase everything. So let's write. So what we are doing yesterday, we are using console. Why this is too bold? You are writing GCP console, and then you're using a mouse to click, or you're using keyboard to write whatever your inputs are using this. Okay, so now because of you are doing this, so let's say you have to create 100 resources. What you have to do for all the 100 resources, you have to use the click ops. You have to create multiple times. You have to create 100 different resources. You have to try 100 different times. So you have to go to, let's say you need to create 100 VMs. So you have to go to a VM, create a VM, and then fill all the details 100 times, and then you have to create those 100 VMs. Okay, instead of that, what you can do, you can create a Terraform code. Okay, so here you have a Terraform code. Let's call this the Terraform code. Okay, so in this Terraform code, so this is the Terraform code. Okay, so what you are doing in the Terraform code, you are actually writing a code. Okay, so once the code is created, what you will do, you will actually, okay, this let me sign up. Actually, I think it will be easy. let's go back here. So this is our pen. So this is where we are writing the Terraform code. We talked about it, right? So this is where, let's call this as a Terraform. Okay, Terraform. So you wrote the Terraform code. Now what you did, you are actually so this is your GCP. Okay, so let's call this as a GCP account. So now what you're doing, you're writing your Terraform code. Now you're connecting this Terraform code to GCP. How do you do that? You have to use the either gcloud command, okay, or you can use a IAM service account. We talked about the service account yesterday, right? So we can use service account also, service account, SA. Okay, so using this you can authenticate as your Google account, and you can write your Terraform code. When you are running the Terraform code, either you use login with the gcloud command, or you can use your service account. With the help of that, you can actually write the Terraform code and you can implement the Terraform code. Okay, any question? So now what are the different types of Terraform commands? Okay, so there are different types of Terraform commands. So if you just want to see Terraform, you can just hit enter. You can actually see all these commands. Okay, so main commands are these 5. So init, what it will do, it will initialize the Terraform. Okay, and then if you want to validate, that is where you will use the Terraform validate, or if you want to use a format checking, that's when you will use the Terraform FMT. Okay, all these commands follows command as a Terraform, then followed by this command. Okay, Terraform plan. Okay, its command is Terraform plan. So if you want to run, let's say Terraform init, right? So let's say Terraform form init. So this is where you will initialize, but I don't have any files here, that's why it's not getting initialized. Okay, so let's say Terraform plan. I'll talk about all those commands, what it will do, but I'm just showing you now. No configurations file, that is expected. Okay, now the same goes with apply, same goes with destroy. If you're using Linux, you can actually use a tab, it will do it, or Terraform format. Okay, these are the main commands. Okay, any questions so far? No? Okay, good. So let's continue. So we talked about the multiple commands, right? So this is a Terraform init. So what does the Terraform init does? Basically, you are initializing, when you are doing for the first time, so you will run the Terraform init. Okay, so if you are running it second time, you don't need to run the Terraform init. Okay, for the first time, whenever you are using a provider, we'll talk about the provider also. So that's when you will be using the Terraform init. Okay, now why we need to init? Because you are telling the Terraform that I am using this Terraform provider. Okay, so let's say you want to use that GCP provider. Okay, so that you're telling the Terraform that I am using, this is the provider. I'll talk about the provider block and everything. Okay, so you'll tell that this is my provider, initialize my provider. Okay, Now Terraform, once you initialize it, you wrote your Terraform code. Let's say you got a, so what is the extension for Terraform files? It will be always terraform.tf. Okay, so let's say I want to call this as iam.tf. You can name whatever you want. Okay, but main important thing, you have to have a .tf extension. Okay, and then you are telling it how to use. Okay, so now I told about the Terraform provider, right? So let's talk about the provider block now. So let me create a provider.tf file here, because I'm telling my provider, I'm telling my Terraform that I will be using this provider. So I'm telling, I need to tell Terraform that, hey, I will be going ahead and creating a Terraform for Google Cloud. So I have to tell, so this is my provider.tf, right? So on the Terraform provider.tf, once I have it, I'll have to add all my Terraform code related to it. Okay, so let's copy paste this. So this is what it is. Okay, you will write something like this. So let's say you don't know how to do it. So you go to Google, Terraform provider GCP. Okay, so you go to Terraform provider GCP. Okay, you go to Google Cloud. So you can actually see it here. Okay, you want to install here, so you can install, or you want to see the libraries, anything you need to do, you can see it from here. But I'm not worried about it. I'm talking about the provider, GCP provider. GCP provider. So you can set up here, and you can create a make directory, and this is where your Terraform block. Okay, so this is where your provider, this is where you are specifying your project ID and zone, and if you're trying to create a network, it is a code for network. Okay, so let's not do that. So we are only using Terraform provider, and we are telling that this is the version is required, and this is the source, and this is the version that should be greater than or equals to, and this is the provider version. Okay, the project and everything. Okay, so this is my provider block. Now what I told you last time, once I have my provider, I can just do Terraform init, right? So let me go back to Terraform and then write init. So now it should initialize Terraform FORM. So Terraform has successfully initialized. Okay, why? Because I already have my Terraform provider code. Okay, now what I need to do, since I have a provider, now I need to write my code to create, like I need to write my code. So whenever you are writing your code, what you need to do, initially you have to declare your variables in any programming language. So here also we are declaring our variables. Okay, so in this, yesterday when you are doing the lab, right? So here if you just come here, so in this is my lab, yesterday we did, right? So what we did, we come to the project, in the project we come to the IAM, in the IAM we click on the grant access, and then we specified what principal, what role. Okay, so same thing we are going to do the same exercise using a Terraform. Okay, so now for me to write, what I need to tell, so I need to tell which project, which region, what is your user email, which is a principal. Okay, so these are the three variables I need. So I declared those variables. So type, so we'll go to the details later of type, what are different types and everything. So whenever we got it later, but for now I'm just telling you because you will get familiarized yourself. Okay, now next one is tf vars. Okay, so tf vars is nothing but the actual implementation of your variables. Okay, what you did so far, you actually wrote your variables. So you need to pass the variables, right? If you know the programming language, you need to pass the tf vars. I think I created as a folder. I need to create that as a file. Okay, this is my tf vars. So what I'm going to do in my tf vars, what I declared in my variables, I declared the project ID, I declared my region, I declared my email ID. So I have to write tf vars for it. So I'm going to write the tf vars. So region is my project ID, is my project ID, and the region is my region, and user ID is student.example.com. Okay, we'll see when you get the error. Okay, so now next one, main.tf. so main.tf is where you actually write the Terraform code. Okay, actual Terraform code. So this is the, so for everything you are writing in Terraform, there will be a resource block. You'll, depending on whatever the requirement you have, you'll write that resource, and then you'll give a name to it, and then you'll talk about the variables, whatever you define, and then you'll give the role, and then whatever you're trying to do. So you are trying to, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to give a IAM binding to a user called as whatever the user I'm providing it in previous screen, tf vars. Okay, so it will be student.example.com. student.example.com is not exist. You will get an error, but we'll see that. Okay, now once you do that, now what you need to do, once it is completed, you also need to see output. So where do you see the outputs? How do you print the outputs? You have to type, you have to tell what should be the output. Okay, when the commands are running, outputs outputs.tf. so this is where you will write your outputs. So I am writing output as a granted user, and it is picking the value from user variable, user email variable, and another output assigned role. So it is picking up the value from roles/viewer. Okay, so now let's do this. So for you to authenticate your account, what you need to do, you have to run the command gcloud auth login. Okay, the minute you run the gcloud auth login, there will be a pop-up on your browser. Okay, so this is the browser pop-up I got. So now I have to authenticate myself. So how do I authenticate? I have to select my ID, and once I do, I'll continue, allow. Okay, now I've logged in. Okay, now I've logged in. So if you see, this is the project ID as a cloudcorner.com, and then it says it is actually trying to connect as this ID, but I don't have access because this is my another project ID which I don't want to use it here. So what you need to do, I have to use the gcloud config set project, and then project ID of this current project. Here is my console.cloud.google.com. So how do I get it? You go to console.cloud.google.com. I go to project picker. So you will see your project ID here. Okay, so this is my project ID. I'm copying it, I'm pasting it here, gcloud config set project, and this is my project ID. Done. Now my project ID is being set. Okay, so what is the first step you need to do in Terraform running? When you're writing the code for Terraform and when you're running it, you have to run Terraform init. Why? Because you already have a provider. You need to initialize the provider. In my case, I already did the Terraform init. Okay, but if you already run the Terraform init and if you run it again, there won't be any issues. Okay, Terraform init. It says initialized. It's being initialized, and you will see it's initialized successfully. Now, what is the next step? I need to run Terraform format, because if there are any syntax errors, it will tell. Okay, I don't have any syntax errors, so it's running. It has completed successfully. Now, what is the next step? I have to run Terraform plan. Why I need to run Terraform plan? There is another command called as a validate. You can run this also. So if the configuration has any issues, it will tell us. Okay. Now next one is Terraform plan. What is Terraform plan? So Terraform plan is like a simulation. So it will tell what kind of resources you are creating and how many resources are getting created. Okay. So now it says I don't have any changes. Why? Because any questions so far? Okay. So now Terraform plan is completed. So I don't have any state file, right? I have to use, so there is a thing called a state file. We will talk about it when we go to the full Terraform class. For now, you can use the Terraform as a local. So I'm here. I have all my Terraform files. So let me save. I think I have not saved it. That's another problem. So now I can see the length. Good. Now let me run the Terraform plan. Okay, I'm getting an error. It says inconsistency log file. So let me run the Terraform init again. Okay, now Terraform has been initialized successfully using a local block. Now let's do Terraform plan. So now says there will be one Terraform resource gets created. What is it? You are creating a, you are assigning a role to this user. Okay. If I run the Terraform apply, will it work? No, it will not. Okay. Plan always doesn't mean, a successful plan doesn't mean always you have a successful apply. Okay. Let me just run the Terraform apply. So you have to specify yes. So once I say yes, it's creating a viewer role, but so I'm getting an error because I have not used the correct user. Okay. Any questions so far? Hello. Okay. So what we will do, we will go back to TF vars. Where is my TF vars? It's here. Okay, so what's my user ID? Do I have a permission on Raja arc user ID? Let me just check. Cancel. So here Raja arg has a editor permission. So let's say I'm deleting it for now. Okay, I've deleted this user. Save it. So now Raja arg doesn't have any permission. Okay, so what I'm doing is, instead of using the user as a student at example.com, I'm using this. Okay, so now let's go back to the copy. So now what should I do? Okay, now I have run all the commands. So do I need to initialize again? No, no need to initialize. Initialize only happens when you do it on that specific folder for the first time. Okay, you don't need to initialize every time. Okay, they will even in interviews sometimes they will ask this question. Okay, you can tell them I need to only do the Terraform init for the first time only. Now what is the next one? Can I run the Terraform apply directly? Yes, I can run the Terraform apply directly, but I don't. So what I'm doing is I'm running a Terraform plan. Okay, so Terraform plan, it says the existing one is this user, and now I'm using this user. Okay, so now I'm running the Terraform apply. Now I have to enter yes. So now it's creating the user IAM binding. What is the error again? I think there's some gcloud related error. This has nothing to do with the Terraform. Okay, that's the reason. There are so many credentials that are cached. I'm running the Terraform plan again. So you don't need to run the Terraform plan multiple times. Okay, if you are confident enough, you can run the Terraform apply, but it is always better to run the Terraform plan before you run Terraform apply. Okay, running the Terraform apply. Yes, it's creating. Why again? Some IAM related error. gcloud config set project, and then what is my project ID? This is my project ID, right? Let's apply. Even when you run the apply, it will show the plan again. Okay, these are the resources that are getting created. 1 to add, 0 to change, meaning anything existing is not getting modified. 0 to destroy, meaning anything that is already created is not getting deleted. Why? Huh? I'm not adding account, right? I'm creating account. I'm actually creating the account. Okay. I can create a new ID also. It doesn't really matter. See, this error I am getting is that because of my user ID had some issues. My Gcloud has some issue. Okay. Sorry, delete. Let's open terminal again. Gcloud config list. Do I mention somewhere the project ID? Okay, TF bars. This is my project ID, right? So this is my first project. So this is the problem. So I'm mentioning my project as this. It still says the same thing. Let's go for apply. So yes. Already did. Now I'm authenticated. Let me run the apply again. So it is yes. Why it's showing an error again? If you do Gcloud auth login, it should work automatically. Should not have. I think I have multiple projects because of that. It's showing an error because the cache. Why am I authenticated as Gcloud Raja or get Cloud Corner? I'm not. Okay. that is the issue. So you also need to install gcloud. I forgot to tell you, you need to install gcloud also. So I'll give you the path from where you can install. I've logged in. Let me just do this one. Does it say Terraform plan? Okay, this could be the reason. Okay, now this has been there. Let's run the access token. Yeah, now the resource apply successfully completed. One resource added, 0 changed. How do I verify? Let's go back to the GCP console. IAM. To which user ID I gave access? raja@cloudcorner.com. Okay, so let me go there and search raja@cloudcorner.com. What permission I gave? As a viewer. Okay, So let's say Bhavan ID is there, right? Bhavan, yeah. So let's say Bhavan, I want to give, what permission I need to give? Bhavan, I need to give him a compute instance admin. Okay. Or let's say I want to give another role to the same user. So what I'll do, I'll go back to this user, not tfvars. Okay, this is the user ID, this is my project, right? So let's say copy the same thing. So I need to have a new user ID. Okay, so this is, this time new user ID is not Raj, what is Bhavan A, I think Bhavan's ID is Bhavan A. Okay, it's only Bhavan. So what I'm doing is, instead of my ID, I'm giving Bhavan's ID. There is a problem with this. I'll tell you what later. But let's say instead of my ID, I'm giving Bhavan's mail ID. Now save. If it's not auto save automatically. Now let's say Terraform plan. So now you see the change. Okay, there is one to add, one to destroy. Why? Because instead of my ID, I used Bhavan's ID. Okay, because of that, it thinks the ID has been changed, so it is deleting the existing change and it is adding his ID. Let's go ahead and do the Terraform apply. So yes. Now this is deleting my ID access and it is adding Bhavan's access. Now it's destroyed. Destroying is completed and is creating. Now apply one added, one destroyed. Okay. How do I verify? Let's go to ID, come back, refresh. So my ID access has been revoked. I don't have that mail ID. My ID doesn't have permissions now. Raj R get cloud corner. Okay. So now what I want to do, whatever the permissions I have added, yeah, I'll come to the question later. So we done the Terraform plan. We come to Terraform apply. Now what is the last command? Terraform destroy. So when you're running this command, you should be 100% careful, because if you run something like this, it can bring down entire production, or it can tear up everything that you have built so far. So you need to be very careful. So when I'm doing the Terraform destroy, now I'm doing the Terraform destroy. Okay, so what is saying, so whatever you have done, these things will be destroyed. Okay, so let's say yes. Now let's get deleted. Okay, yeah, now you can go ahead and ask question. Before that, just give me 1 minute. Okay. Okay, yeah, you can go ahead and ask your questions if there are any. Mm-hmm. 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 Hmm. So that is coming from here. So what I told you, so you have all your information coming from variables and TFRs. Okay, the variables, what you are saying, this is my user ID, this is my parents, right? So where is the TFRs? So this is the TFRs, and this is where my main block. Okay, in the main block I gave the roles as roles slash user. Okay, so I want to variabilize this also. Okay, I want to variabilize this and call it as a role. Okay, so now what I'll do, I'll create a so what you need to do, I need to create this role. For that, what I need to do, I need to create a variable. So let's call this variable as variable user underscore role. Okay, so I'll call this as a description equals to user role, type of type equals to string. Okay, now I variabilized it. Okay, in the main, what I'm doing is, instead of my you see this main, right? So here what I'm doing is, instead of calling this role as a role dot slash viewer, I will be calling that variable. So how do you call the variable? We'll call the variable using var dot. So what is the what is this variable name? User role. Okay, so let's call the var dot user role. User dot role or user role? User underscore role. Okay, user underscore role. Okay, so now I variabilized it. Now since variable is already there, I have to declare that in my TFRs. Okay, so what I'm doing is, I'm calling this variable again, user role. Okay, so TFRs user underscore role is equals to, so just for the testing, I'm giving the editor, editor, editor. Okay, so this is a string, so you should not have many gaps. Done. So now let's save. Get this. Now do I need to Terraform initialize? No, I only need to do Terraform plan. Okay, Terraform. Before I do that, I'll just want, because I wrote some code, so what I'll do, I'll just do a Terraform fmt. So I'm running a Terraform fmt, so that if there are any issues with the formatting or anything, it will fix it automatically. Now fixed, so I'll also do Terraform validate, just to make sure the configuration is correct. Validate Terraform validate. Okay, there is a typo here. Terraform validate. Now configuration is valid. So now I check my Terraform formatting, I check the Terraform configuration, both says it's correct. So now let's go for Terraform plan. Why I wrote the Terraform TRA? Okay, typo. Okay, so what it says, Bhavan, no, it should not be viewer. Okay, editor. Okay, I should change the outputs also. Here it says role, right? This value. So this also has to be variabilized. So what you need to do, var dot, what is the name? User underscore role. Okay, so now because I hard coded, it's giving the same output. Okay, so now if I do a plan, see what, okay, I should not add this in the double quotes, that's why. See, now you are getting the assigned role as editor, and this is the role. So I variabilized it. Terraform apply. So yes, did I spell the editor wrong or what? Okay. Okay. It's called as editor only. Why am I not seeing that as a editor? ఈ స్పెల్లింగ్ తప్పు ఉంది చూడు ఒకసారి. Or it should be E. చూస్తున్నా ఒకసారి. Or let me just use the compute role, some compute engine admin. ఇన్వాలిడ్ రోల్ అంటుంది అది. రోల్ తీసుకోవట్లే కరెక్ట్గా. some okay, it's should be role slash editor. That's the correct thing. Roles slash editor. Much better. So now created. Okay, so let's go back to your GCP console. Before refresh, you only have compute in OS login, demo role, viewer role. Let's refresh. Bhavan has editor permission. Okay. ఇవ్వచ్చు. సో మల్టిపుల్ రోల్స్ ఇవ్వాలి కదా నువ్వు. కామా ఇచ్చేసి ఇంకోటి ఇస్తే అయిపోతుంది. రోల్స్ స్లాష్ ls roles slash. Why you need a viewer? You already have a viewer. ఎక్కడుంది? ఎందుకు పోయింది? ఉంది. డెస్ట్రాయ్ చేసినా కానీ ఇతనికి ఆల్రెడీ మన టెరాఫామ్ వాడకుండానే వ్యూవర్ యాక్సెస్ ఇచ్చాను. ఓకే లేదా ఇప్పుడు? ఓకే ఓకే ఫైల్ సేవ్. Okay, the thing, let me do Terraform. ఓకే న్యూ లైన్ ఇవ్వాలి ఇది సపరేట్గా యూజర్ రోల్ దగ్గర. ఇది మళ్ళీ సారీ ఓకే. Now let's do అదంతా నో ప్రాబ్లం. అది ఫార్మాటింగ్లో లేచిపోద్ది. ఇది మనం వేరియబుల్ని మనం స్ట్రింగ్గా డిఫైన్ చేసాం కదా, దీన్ని స్ట్రింగ్గా డిఫైన్ చేస్తే ఇవ్వడం కుదరదు, దాన్ని లిస్ట్కి ఇవ్వాలి. వేరియబుల్ ఆఫ్ టైప్ స్ట్రింగ్ కదా అది, దాన్ని లిస్ట్గా ఇస్తే సరిపోతుంది. ఎందుకని వస్తుంది మళ్ళీ ఎర్రర్? ఇది యూజర్ అండ్ స్కోర్ రోల్స్ ఈజ్ ఈక్వల్స్ టు వ్యూవర్. One minute. ఓకే ఇది ఫార్మాటింగ్ తప్పు రాసాను నేను, ఇక్కడ కామా ఇవ్వాలి. లాస్ట్ రాసేదానికి కామా అవసరం లేదు, మధ్యలో కంటిన్యూషన్ వచ్చిన దానికి మాత్రం కామా ఇవ్వాలి. యూనిట్ గివ్ కామా. ఓకే ఫార్మాట్ వై న్యూ లైన్ ఆల్రెడీ ఇచ్చాం కదా. ఓకే ఓకే రోల్ అనేది ఇలా డిఫైన్ చేయాలి కదా. ఓకే ఈక్వల్స్ టు because this is a list, right? Now formatting is done. Terraform validated. What is this? Something wrong with this. This is where role is list of dynamic, but what is the problem then? So okay, this is a pure now, right? Let's call it as IAM binding. I think it's coming here. The role. For each dot to set the main మార్చాలి మనం. Sorry. User dot role కదా, roles కాదు ఇది, where dot user roles వేరియబుల్ లేదు. అవుట్పుట్స్లో కూడా user roles. Now this is a valid Terraform plan. Yes, right? Terraform plan, right? Terraform plan. యూజర్ రోల్ ఎందుకు ఇన్పుట్ అడుగుతుంది? టీఎఫ్ బార్స్లో ఇవ్వలేదా మనం? gave it, right? Where dot user role. Okay, because of this is not roles, that's why. Okay, now it's creating two resources, Terraform plan, Terraform apply. It's creating one a role which is editor, it's adding two roles. Because of that it says 2 to add, 0 to destroy. So yes, now I removed your editor access, I removed your role access, that's why it is creating 2. So now you have signed with editor and user. So let's say this is user, right? So now you have to do it for multiple users. How do you do it? So you follow the same thing, variable. So this is of list, right? So email ID also will type as a user role, and we'll call this as a type as string. Okay, now we confirm that as a string. Roles, ఇది description can be anything. This is important. Okay, so role, members. So members also we have to have multiple members. So now we change the user mail ID of type also list, right? List of any. So we can change it to any, or we can keep it as string, that's not a problem. Now tf vars, I need to add same thing what we did. Tf vars, I have to change this to user now Bhavan, comma Raja arc at cloud.com. Okay, అది ఒక్కటి ఇవ్వడానికి నువ్వు సపరేట్ బ్లాక్ రాసుకోవాలి మళ్ళీ అప్పుడు. ఓకే, ఆర్ యూ కెన్ కాల్ ఇట్ యాజ్ a separate IAM binding. So provider is same. So now I need to change the granted user to same. This is same, right? Main I have to change it to for each two set of user emails. Role dot each value where user dot underscore roles, then member is equals to user dot each dot value. Terraform format. Here is the project ID. Project ID is already here. It went into another line now. Let's do the formatting. Format is completed. Terraform validate. User role is redefine role. This you are getting it in main.tf. Okay, in main.tf user dot where user role is a list. We change it to list now. Output user role. Stringer. Right. Let's change it to string once. Check. To set user email. Okay, this is user emails. Outputs user TFRs user emails. Okay, we'll check later. I'll just push this code to GitHub. You can just use ChatGPT to fix it, and later you can check. Okay, now I'll just show you how to do the git. There is access to my git. Let's go to git. I need to do git push. I push the code. So let's go back to the git. Refresh. See, I have my readme.file which just got added. So now I'll push everything else. So how do I do it? Just copy this git add dot, which will add everything. Git commit -m land first commit. Now all these files were added. Now I'll just do git push. Well, okay, this is exceeding the files. Okay, some files that are there. C colon documents. What's the class? Okay, I don't know. I think there is some issue with the provider's file because it's too big. What I can do, I can just delete it for now. file is this now? Provider is already deleted, right? Don't have files like this. Let me create a file called getignore. So now this has been okay. This is the upstream again. Why? Okay, now the code has been pushed to Git. Okay, so all you can do, you can just go back to my Terraform code repo. You can go to code, you can get clone it. Okay, I'll paste this in the what's up. Any questions? Hello. been a long session. I think we can stop for the day. Okay.